So, continuing the assembly of the Harlequin 128. Since my last video, I made a little bit more progress. We have transistors. So there's a row of transistors that have gone in here. These were particularly tricky to work out because they're flat, trying to work out which was the base, the collector and the emitter. And some more traditional transistors were around on the flat bit there. BC548 off the top of my head. So they've been put in along with a number of capacitors. I'm in the process of just soldering in some more capacitors now. These in particular, the instructions were not particularly clear on which way they should go in, so I have at my disposal a tool, a component tester, which is quite handy. I purchased from eBay for about, no, Amazon for about £18, but you can get them cheaper. A multi-tester like this. And the idea is you put the components in here and then it will tell you the component values. I mean, it's cheap, it's not perfect, but it gives you a good idea. So for example, I could put this capacitor in here, press the button, give it a couple of seconds. There you go, it's reporting that as 54 nanofarads. Anyway, this came in particularly useful for determining the pins on the transistors, these transistors here. Plug them in, it'll tell you which pin is the collector, base and emitter relative to the pins that it's plugged into. So 1, 2 and 3. If 1 is the base, it'll come with 1. If I flicked it in the other way around, 1 would be the emitter and 3 would be the base. So that's the last of the capacitors soldered in, and we've got some electrolytics here and here, aluminium electrolytics, lots of ceramic disc capacitors, and that's that really. Quite fiddly working with some of these smaller disc capacitors. The instructions were a little bit vague if you're not used to electronics on with regard to the polarity of electrolytic capacitors. It said, and I quote, "If there is no minus sign on a capacitor, even the large ones, it can be assembled in either way." Well, that's strictly true. It's sometimes a little bit difficult working out, if you're not used to it, the polarity of a capacitor. So the tell is here. You can just about see, if I zoom in, there's a stripe, a grey stripe on this particular brand of capacitor with a minus sign on it. That is the negative pin of the capacitor. The positive pin doesn't have the sign. So you can see here on this larger capacitor there is no obvious plus sign. The other tell, I mean, you can't tell with regards to these capacitors that have clipped the pins already, is that usually the positive pin has a longer lead. So just take a little bit of care. Measure once, measure twice, cut once. Take a little bit of care with these capacitors to make sure that they go in the right way. Fortunately, the board itself, the capacitor pads, the positive pin is marked out with a square pad, and the minus pin with a more traditional round pad. So I think that's more or less all of the discrete components in now. So I'm moving on now to jumpers, connectors, crystals and keyboard connectors and so on and so forth. So it looks like we're almost approaching the end, short of socketing everything up and plugging it in. So where do these jumpers go? Number 1, pin header strip. So where does that go? Jumper 1 goes here. So let's have a look at what we've got in here. I'll probably have to break these, won't I? Let's just move my cable out of the way. See what we've got in here. Okay, so we've got three jumpers to do immediately. The first one is for the joystick select, which is 2 pins. So I'll just break those off here, like so. I think that'll work. Can I just snap them off? Just get the cutters in here. Oh, there we go. So it's 2 pins for the joystick select. I need 2 sets of 3 for the ROM select now. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. And 1, 2, 3. There. So the joystick select goes in jumper 16, which is here. He will go in. Because I've soldered the chips on here in preparation for having a joystick, even though I'm not soldering it now. I'm going to put the jumpers in. So jumper 16 goes there. I'm going to use my old friend Blue Tack now just to hold that in place whilst I solder it in. Good stuff, Blue Tack. So you just stay there. Try not to push it in too hard so that it gets wedged in the chip socket there. So let's solder that bad boy in. Can't believe we're finally coming to the end of this. So we'll go. I might clean my soldering iron a bit to retin it. There we go. Where were we? There. And there's be a bit of grease on there or something. There we go, that's flowed correctly now. So that's jumper 16 in place. Jumper 17's here. So I can go right here, like so. Just hold that in place with a bit of Blue Tack again. There we go. Just stops it from falling out when you flick the pins over. Keeps everything nice and level. So look at jumper 16. That is looking like it's flush with the board. So yes, jumper 17 soldered in now. Make sure I've got it in the right holes. Yep. It's quite therapeutic soldering. Must be the lead talking. Right, here we go. I've had to turn my soldering iron down a little bit because I'm not used to using, well, with this particular soldering iron, 60-40 solder. So I've got it down to 330 degrees C now. No particular reason other than I can. So solder's still flowing quite nicely, he said. Maybe I'll turn it up a little bit for these components. Yes, turn it up of 5 degrees. Temperature. It's the beauty of temperature controlled soldering irons. You can get the temperature absolutely bang on and change it depending on what you're soldering. So that's jumper 17. I paused the video earlier because I was struggling to find jumper 18. Normally we expect it to be somewhere near to the component in question, so the ROMs are kind of over here. That one, that's where the ROM's going to go. So that kind of makes sense having the jumper over here. Jumper 18 is in between these two sockets here. So let's pop that in. There we go. Just hold that in place gently. He said, maybe just wedge in there like that, just stop it falling out. There we go. So 3 pins are here. There we go. One, 2, 3. So that's the ROM select done, well, with the exception of the switch, which I'll solder on in a second. Is that nice and level? Oh, look at that. I'm such a perfectionist sometimes. Yeah, that'll do. So we've got jumper 16, jumper 17, 18. I'm not going to bother with the NTSC PAL selection jumpers. I don't think for the moment. I suppose I could put the pin headers in here for the joystick. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cut that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's just cut that there. There. Make sure I've got the right number of pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's solder that on anyway. One. Come on. 2. Take the blue tack off. Yeah. Level it up a bit. Let's solder the rest on then now. That's quite scorchy, that on my fingers. Amazing how the heat's conducted to these components. I often find, especially with smaller components, it's probably more for my own peace of mind than the component's lifespan, just to leave it a few seconds in between soldering the pins. So give the board and everything time to cool down. Also gives the soldering a chance to get back up to temperature. There we go. So that's that soldered up. So I'm going to finish off soldering these and the micro switch which goes here, and I'll come back to you in the next video and hopefully we'll be putting chips in and testing. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.